Hello and welcome to another episode of GrangeTV. We have with us a very special guest, former Ultimate Fighter alumni. He's a contracted heavyweight fighter to Bellator. He's undefeated in the Bellator heavyweight division. Founder of Fight for the Forgotten and do a lot of other humanitarian work as well. Mr. Justin Wren, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I guess, I don't know, just to begin, let's start at the beginning. Like, what was high school like? Not even high school, primary school like elementary school for you guys. What was that like for you?
It was hard. It was really hard. Kindergarten, first and second weren't the worst, but I grew up with a speech therapist from kindergarten to sixth grade, and had a really hard time pronouncing things, had a stutter. It comes out very, very rarely now, but if I get really tired or exhausted or nervous, sometimes it comes back out. But I couldn't say certain words like fish. I would say, no matter how hard I tried, it would be fush. No matter what, I'd try my hardest, fush. It'd just come out fush. And so, but I was with some nice kids at the school. I transferred schools, third to sixth grade or third to eighth grade was really tough. I got bullied growing up, sat at the lunch table by myself a lot of times. First day on the playground at a brand new school, I got my first ever fight.
How old were you?
Third grade. So I was 8 years old, I believe, and 7, 8. And I didn't fight. The kid just jumped on my back and started hitting me on the back and back of the head and trying to choke me. And then the teacher pulled him off. And I think from that, he was a real punk. Like, he was arrested later in life for like armed robbery and different stuff. He just had a really rough home life. And I really get it. Bullies, most of the time, it's hurt people. It may, like 9 out of 10, they're just hurting kids. But there's a few that 1 out of 10 are maybe almost not a psychopath, but they just don't have a lot of feelings or empathy towards anyone or anything, and it's just all about them, like egomaniac type people. And so I think that kid was one of these, and he really started leading a charge. And anyways, other kids got involved from third to eighth grade, got hit in the back of the head with either food or chocolate milk spit wads or fist as people walked by. And party. And I remember getting the invitation and it saying it was a costume contest. Winner was going to get a prize, and the prize was a Dr. Pepper gumball machine. We have a soda here called Dr. Pepper. It's really popular.
I know the soda. Yeah.
So especially in Texas, that's where it originated, and that's where I grew up. Was Texas, and there was a Dr. Pepper plant in Dublin, Texas. So about Texas, random fact for you guys out there, is we have a Paris, Texas, we have a Italy, Texas, we have a Rome, we have all these different parts of Texas. And so there was a Dublin, and that's where they make the best Dr. Pepper in Texas. It's made with real cane sugar. Anyways, there was Dublin Dr. Pepper at this girl's house. She had a Dublin Dr. Pepper machine. And so anyways, it was just cool. I wanted to really impress her. There was a costume contest. Well, I should have probably gone as Thor, looking like a Viking, but other kids were going as different characters of Avengers. But I knew she loved the Optimus Prime from Transformers, so I decided I would transform with some duct tape. Being a kid in the country, my mom helping me, I would make myself into a Dr. Pepper transformer from head to toe, and I would name myself Dr. Optimus Pepper. And so I went to the party all dressed up, shield, helmet, chest plate, sword. My mom said, Michelle's going to love this. And
you're in the eighth grade? Eighth grade?
I'm in eighth grade. This was kind of one of the peak moments in my life, really want to impress my middle school crush, catch her eye, pull out all the stops. And since she loves Dr. Pepper, her dad worked there. They had the Dublin Dr. Pepper machine in their house. It was a Dr. Pepper gumball machine that you were going to win as the prize. I just went, and Mimi opened the door, her grandmother, and said, "Oh my gosh, Michelle's going to love this." The rumors at school were true. You just push the button, the Dr. Pepper popped right out. You didn't have to pay, walk into the backyard, sword in one hand and Dr. Pepper in the other. And when I get, met by my peers, the door opens, I get hit with a couple flashes of light. see fingers pointing, hear the sound of laughter. My eyes adjust and see that there's nobody dressed up. It's just me. And that's whenever kind of the devastation sunk in or hit, where Michelle said, "I can't believe you thought you were good enough to come to my party." Everyone starts laughing. Tyler, another kid, said, "You're worthless." And then Justin, the one that organized it all, said, just a ruthless, relentless bully, said, "You should just kill yourself." And it's unique that we're doing this on today because today is National Suicide Prevention Day. September 10th, it's National Suicide Prevention Month. And I was one of those kids that absolutely contemplated, often took on those things they said about me as my own personal truth. You're not good enough. You're worthless. Maybe you should just kill yourself. That became my own self-talk.
I've one just on this party thing. I'm fucking...
Yeah.
When you got there, did her mom answer the door? And
her grandmother knew that. No, her grandmother opened the door, but she did not know that I was a lamb. She was leading a lamb to the slaughter. No, she just thought,
okay, because that would be a whole fucking other level, man. Like, I am inside already angry at what happened. Yeah. And then I think
I ran away from that party, and she tried to help my mom find me. But I didn't know what to do. So, I felt so ashamed, so made fun of, that I literally ran away and hid behind a Dairy Queen, like a fast food joint that serves burgers and fries and ice cream. And I was behind their dumpster where they threw away all the trash. And I was sitting in a corner by the trash can, the dumpster, just reeked fast food smell from a week old or however long. And I'm crying. I ripped off all the cardboard. I had the duct tape still on my shirt and my pants. And my mom didn't find me till after dark, because whenever they closed, that's whenever someone went to throw away the trash. And like, "Oh, honey, what's going on? Come inside." And I walk inside. I call my mom, but this was before cell phones, right before cell phones really where kids had them. I didn't have a cell phone until I was 16. And, I call home, leave a voicemail. She has to, I forget if she went home or if she called and checked the voicemail. But then she found out where I was and came and found me. But I literally ran away from that party. And I was not instantly, but, I was so depressed and shook to my core that, suicide didn't seem like that. I thought there was something really messed up with me, and that no one wanted to be my friend after 3rd grade to 8th grade, 5 years, basically sitting alone oftentimes or most times at the lunch table. I was just a target. And I think it was just from that first day of school, I didn't stand up for myself. People knew I was a target. They could bully me. They could pick on me. And I didn't know martial arts. And it wasn't until I found martial arts or MMA and wrestling that then I started to develop some sort of self-confidence that then started to transform my life into something positive instead of something negative.
What do you think? Not that it justifies it in any shape, way, or form, but I'm just curious. What do you think it was that led to your bullying?
Like, I don't know. I think kids look for someone being, yeah. Kids. Anyone that's different is going to get picked on. Probably a lot of these musicians we all look up to now, I think a lot of them were bullied. I think Lady Gaga and I think even Katy Perry. There's just people out there that are different. They're unique. Now it's celebrated, but then it was really bad. They were maybe ahead of the curve. I'm not saying that about me, because I didn't have any style. I had a chili bowl haircut until, after that, where they just put the bowl on your head and cut around in a circle. It's probably the last kid in America with that haircut. So I was not a trendsetter. I was chubby. I had a speech problem. I didn't have any confidence. And if someone picked on me, I didn't fight back. I didn't stand up for myself or others. And I think martial arts is what empowered me, educated me on how to defend myself, but how to stand up for others, equipped me with the tools to do so, the skills set, and just empowered me to have some confidence and to go after what I want in my life, and to go after what I want, but then also like, after some real soul searching of going through addiction and depression later in life, or at 19 years old, at 23, I started a journey, 24, to really, help others too. And so it's been a big journey, but like step by step, like I've gotten closer to becoming the man I want to be. It's been slow, but it's been steady. And so I'm grateful for where I am now.
Because we will get obviously to when you were older, going back to your folks and that, what were your folks like? What was your relationship with your folks like?
My relationship with my mom was really great.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
She's phenomenal. I literally, I could probably show you on my phone real quick. She's number one on the favorites, but it says best mom ever, right? I mean, I'm a mama's boy. We have a healthy relationship. It's not something weird, but she's great, and she's always been the most positive person in my life, one of the most positive people in the room. But like a positive realist, though. Like she speaks hard, cold truth to me too. Like tells me, "Suck it up, Buttercup. This is going to be tough. Do hard things. Like they make you better." And I dislocated my thumb 13 times my senior year in high school wrestling. Last year, high school, and but my goal is to be the national champ. So she'd be like, tape it up and get back out there, And my dad would kind of be more of she was a 2-time state champion in tennis, national champion in barrel racing, horseback riding.
Barrel racing? What's barrel racing?
So it's horseback riding, but it's a race on them. And there's 3 barrels, and you do these loops around them in a triangle. And if you knock a barrel over, it adds 5 seconds to your time. You try to do it in the fastest time possible. I think most people do it in like the champs, like she was, like 16, 17, 18 seconds, something like that. But like as a kid, I was doing it like, I don't know, 28, 30, 33 seconds. But those pros, like she was, she was traveling all over the country at a young age. And even as me being a kid, she was still competing. So she was the competitor that taught that in me. But I don't know, she felt kind of helpless whenever I was going through what I was going through. She almost died during childbirth and had complications. They told her don't have another one. She had multiple sclerosis, MS. And so I was the only child. And then me being the only child, I don't want to be a disappointment to them. Kids don't like me. And so I kept it in a lot. I didn't share and open up. It was the moments like that and another one at a homecoming that they actually knew about the bullying. Other than that, I was quiet about it. My dad was weird because he's a creative type. He's a photographer, but sports photography. So I grew up around like the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Mavericks and Texas Rangers, professional teams here in the States because in Dallas, because he was their official photographer. So I had 2 parents that really, went after things, came from nothing and made themselves something, which is pretty cool. But my relationship with my dad was really tough. He was he got a little too physical, maybe too often, and so that was really tough for me growing up. Being picked up by my ears or something like that. I've never really shared that publicly, but look so I could look him in the eyes. Pick me up by my ears. And
when you were little, like when you were young, when you were real young.
Yeah. When I was like in elementary school, primary school.
So if he was like saying something to you and you weren't looking at him, he'd grab you by the ears too.
Yeah, pick me up off the ground. So my feet were dangling 2-3 feet off the ground, probably. And that, there's other instances. I probably won't go into all those, but that was just one example. But we don't have much of a relationship now. I really want the best for him, and I know he wants the best for me. And it's just been a tough relationship growing up with. Family can be tough. I have a great family. I really do. And my dad's a great guy deep down. He can be the best and sometimes the worst. And I'm sure that's all of us, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And went through the hardest times. And that's why I'm still here. I literally was a suicidal kid. I didn't want to live at 13 years old, and people don't really understand that. But like suicide is skyrocketing here in the United States and all around the world. And they're getting younger and younger. My parents' photography company that I just talked about, they made a memorial plaque for a mother that my mom knew. Her child was 9 years old, and he was told at school, just like I was, you should just kill yourself. And so at 9 years old, he learned how to tie a belt and hang himself in his room. And, and there's no reason for it to like go through with that ever. I think now I've learned it's one of the most selfish acts in the world. But whenever you're a confused kid and you're depressed and you feel like everyone hates you and this life's not worth, whenever the Twin Towers hit, I was a freshman in high school. The terrorist attack on 9/11, on the World Trade Centers. I was sitting there, and whenever I watched it, like, it wasn't instantly I thought of this, but it was so graphic. I'm sitting in class and I watch it happen. And later someone asked, "What are you thinking whenever you're suicidal?" I'm like, "I don't know." I just related it to that moment, and I'm like, no one wanted to jump out of those buildings. Like, they didn't look at that and think that was the best option, or that's a good option, but it was better than staying in the burning building and suffering from smoke or fire or flames and dying a long, brutal death. And so for me at that time, it made sense, like connecting it to that. This is the quicker, easier way to just get out of the burning building, which in my mind was my mind of depression. And it was martial arts. It was that saved me. It was incredible coaches, a mom that loves me, but coaches like Kenny Monday, Kendall Cross, 2 Olympic gold medalists. Kenny's helped a lot of MMA fighters, Johnny Hendricks, I think Alistair Overeem some, me since I was 15 years old. He has been a coach in my life for 17 years now, which is pretty wild to think about. And just having these like father figure types that loved me, cared about me, told me to set up goals, become resilient, be ambitious, but at the same time, be compassionate, help people, teach, train, share what's been given to you. And so I started going on a martial arts journey at 15 years old. I found the UFC at 13. Right after that bullying moment at Michelle's house with the Dr. Pepper, I was a month or two later at a flea market, which is like a little trader's village where, I don't know, in Dallas, Fort Worth, people took a bunch of stolen goods, I think. But here they tried to make it honest, like, oh, it's pawn stuff or it's garage stuff. It's like, no, those are car parts. What are you doing selling those car stereos? And why is it like you cut it out? But I went there for a BB gun, being a country kid. I just wanted to shoot some rats in the barn. And instead, I found the UFC 2 through 9 or 2 through 11. And I fell in love with it. The chess match, like, fell in love with it. Like, the judo versus sumo, or, boxing versus wrestling, or jiujitsu versus kickboxing, and who's going to win, and how it's evolved and how it's gotten so incredible. I absolutely love that. I'm passionate about it. But I also knew if I was one of those guys, I could transform into one of them. I wouldn't be the bullied kid at the party that everyone, methodically planned to humiliate. I would be, I don't know, invited to the party. Or if I was a champion fighter, maybe like it'd be a party about like not just me, but everyone who helped me get there. My team, my family, my friends. And I'd be part of something. I wouldn't be excluded. I'd be included.
Sorry, just to touch on something, because you mentioned martial arts and you mentioned wrestling, and you mentioned that you participated in it, and you mentioned your brilliant coaches, Kenny Monday and Kendall Cross, who are no joke, like you said, they're Olympic gold medalists. But you didn't just wrestle in high school. You wrestled at Bishop Lynch High School, which is a powerhouse in Texas. And you were a standout wrestler, and you were prep champion, and also you won Fargo in Greco-Roman wrestling and gained a scholarship to train for the Olympics. So am I correct with what I said?
Yeah, absolutely. You are good
so what I'm getting at with people, like, you weren't some guy that just wrestled a little bit on the team. Like you went from that position and you became the best Greco-Roman wrestler as a junior like as a youth in the United States, which is a big Greco-Roman wrestling country.
I then 2 years and was, I think, the only guy invited out of high school to the Olympic Training Center.
I was about to say that. And then you wanted to wrestle Division. Then you wanted to wrestle Division I college under Kyle Sanderson, but you got injured. So the credentials you have for wrestling they're not like, oh, this guy tried wrestling a little bit, which I imagine would have made a few bullies shit their pants afterwards. You know what I mean? Like as you got to like year 11 and year 12, like it would have been people that, because people that do that and bullies, and they're scared at the end of the day themselves. And when you become strong, they all like, did that happen with you? Did people start, oh no, I thought the Transformer thing was cool.
Yeah. No, it was, so the girl briefly apologized in a Facebook message once. The guy, Tyler, that said, you're worthless. He is now like impacting youth, at-risk youth, which is pretty cool to see. So props to him for changing his life around. And the guy that organized it all is kind of a knucklehead. I think he joined the military and got discharged dishonorably for like pretending to be a fighter pilot.
Explain that. How does that work?
And like, telling people that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think he was a load master. Like he like weighed the planes, but instead he said that he was the fighter pilot and a war hero type stuff, and making claims of stuff that he wasn't. And he got in a drunk driving accident or two as well, and so they just kind of got rid of him. But he said instead of like apologizing like maybe Michelle or Tyler did, or trying to make things right or acknowledge it, he was just kind of like what you said. He was like, oh man, I wouldn't have done what I did if I knew you were going to be able to beat me up later in life. If you're going to be a pro fighter, I probably wouldn't have picked on you so much. And then he kind of laughed it off and told all his friends that we were at a sushi restaurant. I just saw him, and he brought me over, and I didn't want to go. And he started trying to introduce me to him, wanted me to sit down. I said, I just felt like I was back in middle school again. So let me go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom, went to the bar, I paid my tab, and I just instantly left. Snuck out of there basically because I didn't even want to be around him. He was joking about some of my biggest childhood trauma. Not owning it, not even this brief. I mean, maybe that was his version of an apology, but he was making a joke out of it to me at that time too. Some of my biggest pain, I guess. But yeah, the martial arts transformed my life. Lots of things have great people. For me personally, I don't really go into it much, but like my personal faith, like lots of stuff has come along and like come together. I just said like this life's worth living after all. After years of thinking that it's not. And I think about it now on today, and I don't think I've ever shared this anywhere, but like if I would have taken my life at 13 years old, or if I would have taken my life at 23 years old, or, it's kind of crazy how it's happened 10 years apart, but, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, and I wouldn't be able to help people now. And, these logos behind me, Generation Y and Fight for the Forgotten, we've come together. One of my best friends now, he's kind of like a little brother to me. He started an organization called Generation Y, and he's the founder. He's a spoken word artist, a rapper. He's got this whole hip hop dance team of choreographers that work with the Dallas Cowboys, Oklahoma City Thunder, MTV, BET, those kind of places. And I think they have the most powerful bullying and suicide prevention assembly in the nation. DJ booth, stage, lights, smoke machines, professional dance crew, 4 powerful speakers. I get to be one of those. And like we had to go in schools, and our first time coming together, they're now an initiative of Fight for the Forgotten. And we're going to come out together as Why Fight. Why this is behind me. Generation Y, discover your purpose, your why, your passion, and fight for people. So why do you fight? What cause, what purpose, what passion do you fight for? Our first time presenting together, a girl came down and she had just completed her suicide letter the class period before we were there. And like, because we're there, she decided, her life's worth living. So I'm just like, man, like those moments wouldn't have happened if I didn't have, these powerful moments in my life that are like, stop, you've got a life worth living, whether that's my mom, whether that's my faith, whether that's great people that are in my life, the executive director of Fight for the Forgotten and his wife. I mean, just people speaking life into me has really transformed me personally and helped me help others.
How close, and please slap me through the camera if I'm prying too much, but how close were you to suicide? And in those instances, what pulled you out of it, or what saved you?
Yeah. The last time, I think, not to be weird and get religious on people, but I think it was God that probably saved me. Or just, I'm supposed to be here. And I can't doubt that anymore. The first time it might've been luck. As a kid, I was suicidal, but I didn't actually attempt it. At 23, I did actually attempt it. And I used all the drugs I could. And it was Oxycontin, it was Xanax, it was like half to 3/4 of a bottle of Everclear. It was mushrooms, weed, and cocaine. And I was just trying to end it. It was everything I had, and there was nothing left. And when I say oxy, I mean probably like a pill bottle of oxy. And should have OD'd. Still woke up. Had a guy in Summit County cup in the back of my head and give me water, and I literally was. He was saying I got a drink, and I've never been so thirsty in my life. And I remember just kind of crushing the water into my mouth, and still being here, But I didn't even recognize the guy. Didn't know who he was. And I guess I had been on his couch for 2 weeks in Summit County up in Denver hitchhiking. And it was just using his drugs, eating his food, sleeping on his couch. And I had a voicemail from my best friend at the time, and he's still a phenomenal dude. And he said, I can't believe you missed my wedding. I can't believe my best man didn't show up. I was 8 weeks gone, just on a binge, drug bender. And so there's been a couple moments like that in my life. And yeah, the last one was wild because I had done even more than that. This is my first time ever sharing the story, like publicly. I've shared it with people plenty, but I took 5 Oxy 80s. If I think the world supply Oxycontin is 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams, 20 milligrams for people that have surgery. And 80 is like pretty unheard of, very uncommon. And I had 5 of those that I took, 80 milligrams. So if you compare that to the 5 milligram pills, how many is that? Just one of them. And so I had 5 of them. I had like 5 or 6 Xanax, 2 milligrams, which is really strong. Normally they're diagnosed like 0.5s. I had half a bottle of tequila. I had a bunch of cocaine, and I thought it was Molly that I was taking, like a big, big line of crystallized Molly, pure MDMA. But everything, the lights were going out, and I did it at like noon or 2 p.m., something like that. And I knew that it was kind of the end, and I was okay with it. But something in me just said I had to take that crystal. It was a red crystal of what I thought was Molly or orange. I'm partially colorblind. And I took that, and an addictionologist and doctor says that stuff literally saved me, kept my heart beating, because I took that and I thought it was Molly, but it was actually pure red phosphorus crystal meth, I guess, which is the most strong form of it in the world. And anyways, that literally kept my heart beating, I guess, because I woke up like 16 hours later. And they said that if I didn't have that, there's no human possibility that I'd still be here. Like with all the drugs that were in my system, that just must have kind of restarted or kept my heart going instead of me just fading away. So I woke up the next morning. I took it at like noon or 2 p.m. is my best guess. And next morning I woke up at like 6 something, and I walked out and I was on the beach, and I looked out and I saw the most gorgeous sunset I've ever seen in my life. And obviously I felt terrible, but some reason I felt like peace at the same time. And it was almost like, I mean, I didn't hear God speak to me, and it wasn't like he parted the clouds, but it was the most brilliant sunrise I'd ever seen. And I woke up right as the sun was breaking the horizon, and the clouds, I am partially colorblind, but I've never seen so much color with like blues and pinks and oranges and yellows. And I don't know, just something in my spirit or my heart or my mind just kind of felt like, I'm not done yet, or maybe God's not done with me yet, and that I have a purpose and a reason to be here, because I shouldn't have been there, shouldn't still be here. And so it's just kind of like, I don't know, grace or an opportunity or love. I've been okay at loving others. I've been pretty good at it at times, and but I've never really been good at loving myself. And that's been the journey I've been on since starting Fight for the Forgotten, is like, yeah, I want to love as many people as I can, but I keep being reminded that I can't love others until I love myself, at least fully, like I'm supposed to. And so now it's about trying to take care of myself as I take care of others.
Oftentimes with like a lot of that type of stuff, like we're very hard on ourselves. Like we do something wrong. Like say, for example, sometimes, I don't know, whatever, I might be short with my wife or say something, whatever. And not only have I been, rude in that regard, but then to myself, I'm like, you're such a fucking dickhead. How can you be so rude? You know what I mean? And it doesn't, like, it's not, you've already been rude. You know what I mean? Now you have to be kind to yourself. And I think like, it doesn't mean like you excuse your behavior and then you pat yourself on the head and go, you're a champion for doing that. But it is a hard thing, because being unkind to me is not going to make it what I did to somebody else any better. You know what I mean? So it's real weird. Did you always have, like, so going back as far as you can remember, did you always have like a predisposition or towards depression or towards suicide, like something that
my mom doesn't think so, because I was a pretty happy kid outside of school. But after that moment at like 13 on, it hit like a Mack truck. As a kid, I was a happy kid around my parents and around other family members, cousins, stuff like that. But at school, especially after that costume party, like I got wrecked. I mean, it devastated me. And that's where I took on those truths of, you're worthless, you're not good enough, you should just kill yourself. Same words those 3 kids said that our executive director and his wife of Fight for the Forgotten, Jim and Susan, they've always tried to remind me when I share this at schools, but hey, you can share that story, but make sure you tell yourself and tell those kids, like, but now I know that's not true. That's not who I am. Because I think they see that sometimes it brings back almost like PTSD. I've been diagnosed with PTSD from that and stuff that's happened in Congo, some childhood trauma, different things. And I got to remind myself that, like, that's not who I am, because that's where my mind goes when I do mess up, like what you're saying. When you're short with somebody, mine especially, whenever, if I were to relapse, I know that's where my mind goes immediately. You're not good enough. You're worthless. Maybe you should just end it, because the cycle of addiction is so real that whenever I get stuck in that trap, it's like there's this mental obsession that I need it. And then when I have it, it'll make me feel better, but I'll use like a gentleman this time. I'll be one and done, one joint, one hit, one drink, and I'll be done. But that's not how a real deal alcoholic or addict works. It's like, you take it. I take the drug takes me, or I take the drink takes me. One's too many and 1,000's not enough. And so I can go back to Bishop Lynch, my high school, being there celebrating with the national championship trophy. I'm the first Texan heavyweight to ever do it. I'm the 3rd Texan to ever win it. And so parents, teachers, or I should just say this kids, and we decided to celebrate, and we're drinking out of my national championship trophy, passing it around to everybody. And my first time ever drinking, I thought I had 30 shots of vodka. 17 years old, first time I ever drink, 30 shots, except for the funny part about it yet. The next day was everyone was like, oh, we gave you 15 water shots after you had almost a whole bottle of vodka, the little bottle. That was like from the very first drink. And what that's called in the cycle of addiction is, it's called the allergy. So an allergy is just an abnormal reaction to a common substance. And so, but you can't tell someone that's allergic to like peanuts, hey, or nuts, hey, switch from peanuts to almonds, or switch from almonds to cashews, or, well, I guess cashews aren't really a nut, but, you can't just switch.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I can't go from drinking to pot, or pot to drinking, or, to Coke or anything else. It's like I can't have anything, because once I have a mind altering substance, it's like there's no limit. Other people will just be high on pot, and they have 2 or 3 joints, and they're high, really, really high, and they don't want to go any higher. And I'm like, you think 2 or 3 joints is good? Let's try this whole pound I have, like right now. There is no like gauge or limit to it. I just want to use it all. So anyways, I've gotten out of that. And I think what I was going to share with you real quick was the cycle of addiction. You start with that first use, then you go on a spree, and, or you have that allergy set off, you go on a spree, then you end with like emerging remorseful. And when I emerge remorseful, I match it with a firm resolution. This is all the cycle of addiction, but then emerging remorseful, I feel so terrible. I feel worthless. I don't feel good enough. I feel suicidal, literally. And then I promise people with that firm resolution, I'm never going to do this again. I promise myself, I promise God, I promise whoever. And if you plug me up to a
polygraph,
polygraph, yeah. I absolutely pass, because I really never, ever want to do it again. And then you go to this restless, irritable, and discontented state. Discontent's like I'm thirsty, and discontented is like there's not enough water in the whole world to quench my thirst. And then you start to have this kind of mental obsession about it. That one time I was able to use responsibly, or the 100 cases I have to say I drank a beer and stopped, or had a glass of wine and stopped, or had a joint and stopped. But then I have a million cases where it wasn't that way, that I was left suffering or humiliated or something like that. And so anyways, it's been a real process of like breaking that cycle of like not even the mental obsession, but about using the mental obsession about like, you're not good enough. And so one of the things they say in AA or 12-step programs is that like when all else fails, they want you to be spiritually fit, or like, working the steps, which is like a foundation of just being a good person, and like helping others and being good to yourself, and knowing that, there's this power greater than you that can help you in your addiction. But they say when all else fails, like help another addict or alcoholic, or go out and help someone that's homeless, help someone that's doing this and that. And I didn't have the recovery program telling me that whenever I started Fight for the Forgotten at all. But as like I started to learn about recovery, I was like, wow, like this is one of the reasons why I do this. Like the benefit of helping others, like it actually helps me. And it's this cool cycle of like, or this beautiful cycle instead of this horrific, ugly cycle.
One of the crazy things I find, like I've never been like suicidal. I felt really fucking down at times, you know what I mean? But I've never been like that. But one of the things that it does, like, you can't just kill yourself anyway, though, too. That's what's crazy. Like, people won't jump off a building because they're scared of heights, or they won't OD because they're scared of things like, and with you, it was drugs. Drugs were the weapon of choice, so to speak, for suicide every time.
No, the other time I did, 2 times were drugs, and 1 time was like trying with like a noose.
Fuck.
So, but never really thought about the jumping or the gun. I've never had a gun really. And so, it's crazy though, man. Like I hate that I've ever been in that place, but now I just want to help others with that. And so, by the way, we office.
Sorry, what was that?
A space and
you broke up.
Sorry, yeah.
You broke up.
I was gonna let you know that. Yeah, probably broke up because I think a kid ran in here We actually had office at an elementary school, a real one. And because we're a bullying and suicide prevention nonprofit in schools. And so we've been gifted this space. And so one of the kids, I think, accidentally came in here maybe. You might have heard that, or that's where kind of the disconnect came. Once he opened the door, I don't know, the internet went out. But I love it, man. I love that now my story can help others. I mean, sometimes I reflect on it and it really sucks. It really sucks that I've been in such a dark place. But if I can use it as fuel, embrace it, love it, instead of hate it and avoid it and complain about it. If I can just decide to use the good, the bad, the ugly, to help others, not just share the highlight reel, but share, some of the devastating times that can connect with other people, can relate and can show them like it's going to be all right.
I think when you share stuff like that on platforms, well, this platform's not that big. So, but anyways, there will be somebody listening for sure. And I think a lot more people relate to the flaws in people, and even if they won't say it, but people relate to the flaws in others, and everyone's been through the dark times, even if they haven't tried to take their lives or whatever, but everyone's been through. And I think you speaking about it is incredibly helpful, because, man, like, honestly, from the outside, say, for example, I'm looking at you and I'll look at you and I think, fuck, this guy fights in Bellator. He was Mr. Wrestling, in high school. Now he's a humanitarian worker. He starts a charity. He's 33 years old. This guy, man, shut up. You've done it all. Now you want to go help people in the Congo. Shut up. You know what I mean? But the reality is, when you hear the whole story and you're like, no, dude, like, this wasn't all plain sailing. Nobody said, you know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why I'm doing this. Like, and that's the part that people, like, it resonates with people. You know what I mean? Like the flaws and the real story. You know what I mean? Like, because otherwise you yourself are a very intimidating person in as far as just how successful you are. You know what I mean? Like, even if you might not be thinking that about yourself, because you sometimes people don't see that like that. But when you say what you say, I think that's where people can relate so much more, like when you told that story and everything. For me, man, I don't have I've never been addicted to anything, but I know 1,000 billion%, like, I don't touch alcohol. My grandparents on both sides had alcohol issues, If I drink coffee, dude, I fucking see the Matrix, like, that's just coffee, and I don't touch it. You know what I mean? I don't touch anything, but not because I'm super smart or super anything, just because I know that's, I don't know. I'm exactly like you, like in that regard. Like, I know that when people go, "Hey Fab, do you want to go play basketball?" I don't go and play basketball. I'm there like it's the NBA finals. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fucking, I will go to a hospital after it, if I have to. Like, I don't muck around. So, if I were to start drinking, I wouldn't have, maybe once or twice I'd have a drink, but I will drink 1,000 and lick the inside of the bottle. You know what I mean? And so I just stay away from it.
Yeah. That's good. That's good that you know your limits, right? Because that's what happens with an alcoholic or addict in that cycle. We forget, like a week or a few days or a month, we forget the humiliation, the suffering, and the tragedy that happened because we lost control. And so I think those are the two qualifying questions: is if you can never quit entirely, you might be an alcoholic or an addict, or if when you use, you lose, you almost always lose control. Or you frequently lose control, you're probably an alcoholic or addict. It's really great. It's a blessing, bro, that you know that about yourself, because it can be like a train wreck where I know don't use. This is going to end badly, and do it anyways. And you're like, why in the world? Like, in these other areas of my life, And see, that's the first step, is admitting that you're powerless over alcohol or drugs, and that your life has become unmanageable. I can say my life is not unmanageable. I have these other areas where I've got things going okay or well, or, needs improvement or whatever. But in this one area, oh man, it's absolutely unmanageable. And if I lose all control, and man, I'm powerless over it once it enters into my system. So, but man, I appreciate you sharing that about, I think you were saying flaws, right? With your accent.
Yeah. Like flaws.
It could be flaws, or it could be floors. And either one, they're changeable. Where like sharing your floors, your downtime, your lowest moment.
Yeah.
Where you're at.
No. But I meant flaws as in like, like bad features. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
FLAWS.
Your character. No, I get it. But I was thinking about it. I was like, man, you know what? If my ceiling, if my best times can become other people's floors, by sharing my flaws, right? Like sharing my downtimes. If I can also share my best times or my flaws. For the kids that are coming underneath us, why we do what we do and why we share the messages that we share is because we want our best to be their worst, or like they could stand on our shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's what I was thinking when you said flaws. It sounded like floors.
Man, feel free to use that as a slogan if you like. Feel free.
Okay. I will, man. I really appreciate this time with you, man. I'm not into it. I'm just saying that I do. I really appreciate this time with you.
Nah, man. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Fuck, you even messaged back. So, I was very happy about it. I think, there's a thing, the stats in Australia, it's like 5 or 6 men, this is just men, a week commit suicide in Australia. Like
5 or 6?
5 or 6 men a week take their own lives in Australia.
I bet it's more than that, my man, because in the United States alone, it's 22 military veterans, or maybe it's 28. It's either 22 or 28 military veterans each and every day in the United States are taking their life.
Well, I was just reading off the stats here, but I think it'd be more too, because there'd be people probably that it didn't register as a suicide per se. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true. But it's wild how, even kids, it's
22 a day, 22 vets a day in the US?
That's in the United States, yeah. Absolutely, a day. Per day. 22 veterans that are going through PTSD that don't really have the support that they need, or haven't sought it out. But it's a mental health epidemic here, where our military veterans come back and they're just crushed from seeing everyone that they were in their unit with die, and they're the lone survivor, so they have survivor's guilt. Why am I around and no one else is? I'm not a good. This person was better than me. That person was better than me. They should be here. I shouldn't. I'm now an alcoholic and addict. I cheated on my wife. I am not a good dad, or whatever that gets in their head. And then they turn to suicide. And they're not appreciated for their sacrifice, and, they're, they can't get any respect anywhere they go. A lot of people are, but then we got another side that just, I don't really support war. I'm a peaceful guy, but I'm also a fighter, and I appreciate who warriors are. But there's people here that just every chance they can talk bad about someone that's been in the military, they do. And it's almost like they're encouraged when they see someone that is military, go over there and, take a leak on that person just because they used to be in the military. So it can be brutal for those guys. They also get honored too, but I think they get trashed just as much. And so, but anyways, I guess on that, like, suicide with kids skyrocketing. It is insane how many kids are taking their lives each and every day. I think it's the number 2. Kelsey might be able to help me over here. You remember in young people, like, isn't it the number 2 cause of death between ages 10 to 14? I think ages 10 to 14 in the United States. It's the number 2 or 3 reason is suicide. That's the number, like, second or third leading reason for death between ages 10 to 14 years old is suicide. And you're like, these 10 to 14 year olds.
When did that figure become second or third?
It's more recent because of social media, they think, and other reasons. You know, addiction's gone up and depression's gone up, and knowledge of suicide has gone up. And did you get it over there?
Yeah. It's the second leading cause of death among children and adolescents ages 10 to 24.
Wow, second leading cause of death in adolescents from age 10 to 24.
Nearly 1 out of 8 children. Between 6 and 12.
Nearly 1 out of every 8 children ages 6 through 12 has attempted suicide.
Has thoughts.
Oh, has thoughts of suicide.
And that's the U.S.
And that's just in the U.S.
That's incredible.
You know, but I think a lot of it, I mean, the kids are this is where they live now. This is their community. This is their friendships. Their friendship is with one electronic device that then has, 20 apps on it. And then people they call friends or followers, and they're trying to all be influencers and make an impact, but they have to have their Gucci shoes to do it, or be in Abu Dhabi, riding a camel, or, in Tulum on the beach, or else they're not worth anything. And it's like, man, no child is going to be able to do that except for the very, very few 1%ers. And so they either try to fake it till they make it and try to impress others, or try to, whatever it is, they're addicted to their phones, whether it's the social media, the affirmation, but then bullying is through the roof on it, cyberbullying, talking trash people because there's no repercussions of like being, in front of somebody and talking trash to someone and you feeling bad because all of a sudden you see their reaction, how it devastated them. Or you say something and maybe a kid, hits you back or threatens you, or you get in trouble by the principal or the teacher or your parents or their friends or someone. It's just, you can be a keyboard warrior and you can hide behind your phone or your screen and you can say whatever you want. And you can trash people. And I think young, impressionable brains, forming minds, they're forming these terrible opinions of themselves because they put more weight in what some random anonymous person online says or the cool person online says, instead of like the should be trusted people in their families, their friendships, their teachers, whatever. Like some reason, what's said online holds more weight than what's said in person. And I've had to learn that over the last 10 or 15 years. Whenever I got off the Ultimate Fighter, I went from being just a Olympic resident, like training for that, but never having anyone talk trash about me. And for MMA, I actually have great fans and people that support me, and it's been, pretty nice. But I've also had terrible things said about me, or people hoping the worst for me. And I've had to be like, I've had to read it and then have wise counsel in my life, like friends that care about me. So, what that random person says, like, does that really matter? Like who are they? Do you even know them? Will you ever meet them? Or is that just some random anonymous screen name? And it's some, 38-year-old man in his mom or grandma's basement, eating Doritos. And he gets off by, talking trash about someone. So you have to have the people that you trust that can prop you up in good ways of like words of encouragement, but it can also speak truth to you in the hard times of saying like, hey, you're getting off the rails here. And you need to get back on track.
One of the things that's scarier to me about that cyberbullying is not the anonymous guys or people that are doing that. It's like, that party you went to when you were a kid, like, and you went there as Optimus Prime, Dr. Pepper person.
Yeah.
That whole incident would have been filmed nowadays and put up on the net. And then however bad it was for you back then, it would be, 20 times worse. And that's something that like I'm a teacher at like what would be like a college over there, but we have classes with high school students, and sometimes like before, because I'm not really working as much there anymore, but when I was working there I worked there for about 15 years, and sometimes I'd see stuff like the stuff that kids would say or the stuff that kids would post about each other. And a couple of times, like, I have no time for it, you know what I mean? And a couple of times I'd get so fucking angry, dude, at the kid and at the kid that's doing the bullying, if you will. And then like I realized, like, man, this kid that's bullying, there's something wrong with this person too. You know what I mean? Like, I was just curious what you do with schools. Like, what is it that you do in schools? Because I have something to add to that in a second, but what do you do in schools?
Well, like what you said, we say, I've said it, and then Generation Y says it, and we say it together, is like, hurt people hurt people. And so that's something that we truly believe, you know, so we got to love both sides, the bullied victim and the bully, and try to, I don't know, love the hell out of him or bless the mess out of him, you know, like whatever junk he's going through, like see if there's a way to encourage him to a better life too, and treating people right. But we do, I've been in over 100 schools, kind of sharing my story and encouraging them, but then Generation Y's been in, I think, that many or more, and together, or they've impacted over 100,000 students and assemblies. And like I said, I think it's the most impactful bullying and suicide prevention assembly, where we go in, we've got music that's just bumping, music they listen to today, that's on the radio, and it's not something cheesy, where they're going to fall asleep. They come in and all of a sudden they're like, wow, our gym or our, you know, performing arts theater has been transformed into like a show, almost a concert, you know, big speakers, smoke machines, lights, DJ booth, professional, you know, dancers or rappers or spoken word artists that are just really incredibly talented and gifted. And then we break it up with like 4 songs are kind of on our set list. I think it's 4. And they dance. It's actually more. They're dancing beforehand. Then the show starts. High-fiving the kids in the stands while they're sitting down and coming in through the halls. Then a dance. Then a speaker. Might be a speaker about, you know, I grew up watching my dad OD and be taken to the hospital. He was an addict and alcoholic, you know, or another one then another dance. And someone else comes out and, you know, someone that talks about social media and bullying. And it's a awesome girl with, you know, a big personality. And she could be someone that maybe she's gone through it a lot and heard mean, hurtful things. And so the girls and the kids can really connect. The founder and one of my good friends, like a little brother, he's like sharing his story of how he was suicidal himself, thought about pulling out in front of like oncoming traffic. And then also his friend did take his own life. And I'm going to be posting a video later today of his spoken word that's about one of his good friends that took his life. I also share my story. And so we have these different speakers that make it, we break it up and like we get them laughing, dancing, crying. By the end of it, you know, people are hugging, they're learning their own dance move. We have a teacher dance battle, but now we're coming out with curriculums too. We have a bullying prevention curriculum that's offered to all martial arts academies for free. It's called Heroes in Waiting. I teach it to the instructor so they can teach it to the kids. And it's basically heroes in waiting. So we think character development is bullying prevention. If you have good character, you're not going to bully anyone. And if you have good character, you're going to stand up for someone that is being bullied. And they have the most power in a bullying scenario, where I think it's something like 89% of the time someone stands up and says something, one thing, in the first 5 to 10 seconds, it stops. You can say something simple as, hey, that's not kind. That's whenever someone goes from being a bystander to being like an upstander. Because the truth is, this is kind of one of those moments where silence really is violence. When you're seeing someone be bullied, hearing it, you're not doing anything about it, you don't know what that kid's going to go do. And it's like, man, if you just stand up and say something, one thing, hey, that's not kind, you know, it stops the bullying within the first 5 to 10 seconds. If you have to do it a second time, it's like 93 or 94% of the time it stops in the first 20 seconds. So it's like we're trying to empower kids or anybody that sees something, like say something, because it takes 20 seconds of courage to maybe change someone's life. So just do the right thing whenever it presents itself.
What work do you do? Because I like what you said about you coach the teachers, the instructors. But I was going to ask you, when you go into the schools, do you do training and work for the teachers?
We're putting together hopefully assemblies where right now it's just for the students, but the teachers, a lot of them attend, and we've been able to have meetings with, at least in Oklahoma, the governor, the first lady, the Oklahoma State Department of Education, and also the State Board of Education. One of those guys that's on the Board of Education is one of our big advocates, trying to help us get curriculums in school. And we've already filmed Jordan and the team filmed a online virtual presentation or assembly. So kids, even at home, they can watch one of our assemblies. And then we're also trying to really get a curriculum up where one maybe is the Generation Y side, where it's find your purpose, find your passion. You know why? Because that is suicide prevention. If you know your purpose and that you got a good life to live and you're living it passionately, you're going to want to live a great life, and that is suicide prevention. Then the fight for the forgotten side, the bullying prevention, we want to have in there too. Maybe even one day just casting a vision is maybe substance use disorder or substance abuse prevention in schools, because that's when it starts, when kids are 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, oftentimes.
One of the reasons that I'm saying that is because I worked in education for a long time. I still work in education. And
great.
We have I'm sure it's in the US as well, but I think it's today or it was yesterday. It's early in the morning here. It was Are You Okay Day, and the thing that I was going to say was the problem is that I see all these things happen and everything, but then I see the teachers and in offices and all of that stuff, they bully each other and ostracize each other so bad. Like the teaching's pretty bad for bullying and for cliquing and all of that. And I look at it and I think, like, you're telling kids, not you, but I'm saying, like, the teacher will be like, don't bully, don't do this or da 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 da. And man, it's worse with the teachers. You know what I mean?
Worse for the teachers, or the teachers or the students see the teachers doing it to each other, or a teacher bullying a kid. I know one of the most hurtful things I had was a teacher that was just terrible to me and others, terrible to us. And I think that's something that we really could do, where where we empower, or we have an educational program. We're hopefully getting new offices where we're going to have our own podcast studios. We do have a Generation Y podcast that Jordan hosts, and I'm going to be on it soon. And I think it's great for anybody. But we're going to try to we have another student-led one where there's a student podcast, like these 3 amazing students, 2 guys and a girl. The girl has a really powerful story as well. I'm not sure if she shared it yet, but her dad they selected us as their nonprofit of choice. For bullying and suicide prevention, and she has a father that took his own life.
Oh man!
And so just horrific. But she's one of the most special people that our organization knows, and she supports us, and we support her. And she's on our teen board, or kind of like just a student advisory board that help us. What's going to connect with students as we move forward as an organization. We're going to have to be living here where they're living anyways, on the smartphones and smart devices. And so we need to, be accessible to everybody on their smartphones or our podcast. So anyways, whenever we get to the new studio, we're going to have an even bigger filming studio. We might be able to film stuff for students, teachers, assemblies, educators, parents. Who knows where we can take it. But we had a big vision to be one of the most impactful resources for students and educators and parents, like, nationwide. Yeah.
I just because well, honestly, I think it's fantastic what it is that you're doing. I've got a friend who's a psychologist, and he one of the things he said to me about bullying was, it's not, say for example, my behavior is the bullying behavior. Like, so say for example, I try and do it to you, but I can't do it to you. That doesn't mean that my behavior is still bullying behavior. It's still, just because I couldn't do it to you because you stopped me, whatever's going on inside me that's making me do that, even if I can justify it, it's still there. And that's one of the things, like I said, that I see so badly in with the actual teachers, you know, and with professionals, or even I see it like in the UFC or whatever. And I think like it's very hard for a kid to differentiate that this is for a show. You know, it's very hard because that's basically what's occurring. Like the behavior in itself is bullying. It doesn't matter that, like, I'm not going to name the fighters, but it doesn't matter that fighter A really doesn't give a shit what fighter B is saying because he doesn't care. He's just going, please talk some more so we get more pay-per-views. It's very hard for a 14-year-old kid to differentiate that and for those feelings to for those feelings not to come up inside you when you're watching that, if you've been bullied or not, or whatnot.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I won't say fighters' names either, and I'm fans of pretty much every fighter that's super talented, you know, stuff like that. I have appreciation in my heart for all of them and all the hard work they do. But yeah, there's sometimes that, you know, the low blows can come off as like brutal. And yeah, maybe the other fighter doesn't really care because they're getting paid really well at the end of the day. But whenever you bring in someone's, you know, deeply rooted stuff, whether you're talking about someone's childhood or someone's struggles or someone's family or their religion or different stuff like that, man, like you got to be careful because that's setting an example as being role models with the platform we have. That's what I hope is like just the platform I have, like, even if it's a lot smaller than some of these other guys, like I want it to at least be used for the highest possible good, you know, in every situation, circumstance, relationship. Like, how can I use my platform to like help people instead of hurt people in the long run?
I'm going to say his name wrong because I can Chuck Palahniuk, the guy that wrote Fight Club. He was, I was listening to him on Tim Ferriss' podcast, and he was talking about how, real smart dude, both of them. And he was talking about how in Italy, back in the day with the fur trade, they were trying everything they could do to stop furs and whatnot. Whilst it was just the rich people using it, the poorer people wanted the, sorry, I'm fucking up this analogy, but the poorer people wanted to wear furs. When they made furs accessible to poorer people, the richer people stopped wanting to wear them. And then the poor people said, fuck it, we're not going to wear the furs because there's no one wearing them on top. And he's saying that a lot of the times when you're trying to change something, it's other forces, like could be economic forces or whatnot, that once they changed, people don't want to wear furs anymore. And I see that like with bullying and that kind of behavior, we are still at the end of the day rewarding bullying type behavior. Like not even just in the UFC. I look at like sometimes like the people that get selected into middle management are fucking sociopaths, man. Like, do you know what I mean? And we're still as a society still rewarding that behavior for whatever reason. This is way outside of my area of expertise, but I'm just.
No, I think what you're saying is powerful because even there's more corporate workplace bullying education going on here in the U.S. It could be something we do. Maybe that's not our main focus because if you stop it early, then you stop it later in life. But maybe it's something we can do every now and then. But what I was going to say with you is it would blow your mind probably to think Dr. Pepper costume party, like let's crush them and make them suicidal. There's actually a guy that is a very high profile person in the nonprofit world and the highest position you can be at a nonprofit. And he's running it, and it's a really impactful organization. But the way that he methodically cripples people's reputations unfoundedly, the way that he runs people off, the way he bullies people, talks down to them, cusses them out. Like, I mean, just the way he carries himself is absolutely insane. How you said it, like a sociopath. Like he thinks he's the best guy ever, but he's literally acts like one of the worst guys ever too. And it's wild to think about like people like that get propped up into high positions where you're supposed to be caring about people. and you're supposed to be impacting and bettering people's lives, whether it's just a pure for-profit business where you're supposed to take care of your employees, but really they're taking care of the product they produce better than the people that make the product, or in the nonprofit world where you're, destroying people, you're leaving a body of trails of your employees or donors while you're trying to help these other people that you're just getting a checkbox, a number, because, there are a quota that you have to hit instead of like people that you got to take care of. So it's pretty wild, man.
I want to kind of go a completely separate direction because we started talking and it was great and, and everything. I just want to know about the Congo, why, the logistics of it. How do you deal with stuff? Because if you want to go, man, anywhere like that, like you have to take about 1 million shots just to.
Yeah.
So if you, just talk to us about the whole thing, the logistics of it, how, why, the funding.
Yeah, I've got a workout here in about 10, 15 minutes, but
no worries.
But I'll let you know that I started going in 2011 to the Congo, and I came back in like 2013. Had a goal of like, I didn't know how to drill wells or get back land or start farms. Like I just thought, man, if from assessing the need, from going there, from holding a child and burying them, from the water crisis, and that's happened a few times now, and attended the funeral of more than 5 kids that have died of dirty water that are under the age of 5 years old. It was like, like how can we make a difference? And I thought it'd be getting 30 acres of land and drilling 2 water wells, and that would be life transforming for the Pygmy people, that I knew at least. But man, now it's become over 3,000 acres of land. We just bought 48 new acres of land in Uganda. We expanded from Congo to Uganda, and we drilled 68 water wells. And we have empowered the locals to be able to do it for themselves, creating like sustainable businesses inside the country where they meet a need, and they do it for very affordable prices. But it provides a job for them to do so. Instead of having to fly from the US and drill every one, or instead of having to get $1 million drilling rig or $500,000 drilling rig, it's like, how can we make our, we don't need to go punch holes in the ground as quick as possible, because we just keep doing that. We lose track of the thousands we've drilled. Well, there's over 300,000 broken water wells in Africa right now, I think, or at least over 250,000. That's billions of wasted charitable dollars, because these really big organizations have a huge quota they have to meet, and they just have to keep punching new holes in the ground. Well, they don't have a maintenance program. They don't empower the locals. They don't educate the locals. They don't equip the locals. They don't have the tools. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the resources to fix the big, expensive wells. And so, but if you go slow and steady and don't treat everyone in every community like it's a cookie cutter blueprint, solution, you can really empower the locals, where they say something, tongue in cheek. They're like, you guys in America, you guys all have watches, but us Africans, we're the ones with the time, and they're like, you guys are always in a rush. Like, take your time, enjoy a meal with each other. Like, don't just go in and out. Like, let's have a conversation. And so the same goes for the work ethic. They work hard, really hard, but they also take their time in many ways to make sure they do it right. And they spend time with the people in the community. And so we can go with lesser cost equipment that's locally affordable, sustainable, repairable. And, it takes a little bit longer, but instead of it taking a couple days, it takes, sometimes a couple weeks, but it's worth it,
Well, also, as soon as you got to go, man, just say, I got to go, and that's cool. But I'll just ask you a few more things. Why the Pygmies? Why the Congo? Like, how, and Uganda? Like, why? Like, what made you go those people in general? Like, because, like, how'd you end up there?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I'll go ahead and share it real quick. But I was 11 months sober, and I was helping at the Children's Hospital, the rescue mission, which was like the homeless shelter. I was helping at an at-risk youth center for like kids that were in gangs and in and out of rehab. and coming out of juvenile detention centers and stuff. And I just kind of had this, belief that no act of kindness, no matter how small, ever goes wasted. So I started small. It didn't come with a vision to go to Africa because I didn't know who the Pygmy people were. I never heard of them. And I didn't know where the Congo was. When you said Congo rainforest, I didn't think there was a rainforest in Africa for some reason. I thought it was in the Amazon. And I thought it was in India. And I thought it was like in like Thailand and some Asian countries. But I thought Africa was like either desert where Egypt was, or that it was like the savannah where like, you know, you go on safaris. But anyways, I just wanted a purpose. And I felt like I just said a prayer and said, God, what do you want me to do with my life? And I said that prayer, and man, I experimented with psychedelics. I had done a lot of visualization with sports psychologists at the but this was the most real vision that I'd ever had, and I didn't try to conjure it up. All of a sudden, I said that prayer. I was walking on a footpath in the rainforest somewhere, and I kept walking, and I came into a clearing. But before the clearing, I heard drumming, then I heard singing, and in the clearing, I met these people. That a guy was coughing, had his ribs poking out. He was sick, hungry, poor, thirsty, oppressed, and I knew that they were enslaved. And the thing that popped in my head was that they were forgotten, that they were the forgotten people. And I came out of this vision, like it was real quick, but it was just, I was flooded with like almost knowledge of their suffering, or like these people are hungry, poor, thirsty, they want clean water. You know, they're sick. They call someone master. And I came out of that vision, and I literally cried a little, I don't know, grandma sized cookie puddle of tears. And I never cried like that in my life, that much. And I didn't know who these people were, where they were, what they were suffering from, or even if they were real. But 3 days later, I told a kind of wild and crazy guy, adventurous dude that's friends with Bear Grylls, Man versus Wild guy, and he had done some survival training with Bear and friends, and Bear wrote like a foreword to his book. And I was like, man, if there's one guy I could tell that I'm never going to see again, I don't really care if he's crazy, but maybe he'd get it, is maybe this guy that's gone around the world and like helped people. So I told him, and he like nodded his head and kind of had a grin on his face, and his name's Caleb. And I go, what, Caleb? And he goes, those are the Pygmy people. And I said, what? He goes, the people in your vision, they're the Pygmy people. I was like, who? He said, they're in the Congo. And I was like, where? He goes, I'm supposed to go there in 3.5 weeks. But the whole team I was taking backed out. The rebel group took over the 1 million person city and the airport. They control it now. I don't know how I'm going to go. And my wife asked me, it was either that day or 3 days earlier, Jim and Susan met with him, and Caleb was reminiscing, sharing his side of the story. Literally, he was about to back out. And I tell him the story. He goes, look, man, if you feel like you had a vision to go help these people, if you go up, I'll go. And I was like, man, this is wild. So Caleb came with me and another friend named Colin. We went together. They knew the vision. I wrote it down. I'd shared it with them. And all of a sudden, we're landing on a grass runway, monkeys jumping off, and the villagers just cut the runway down with machetes. And we're walking down a footpath after being on a truck for 6 hours, and on a motorcycle, then in a pygmy dugout canoe, and going across a river with crocodiles and hippos. We're walking down a footpath and hear drumming, then singing, come into a clearing, meet a man with tuberculosis that's like coughing up his lungs. And the chief pulls us to the side and says, hey, everyone else calls us the forest people, but we call ourselves the forgotten. And man, Caleb and Colin were all just grabbing both of my shoulders and saying, this is your vision, bro. And I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know at all, but I just felt like if I was, I'm supposed to help these people in some way. And the only promise I gave them was that I could help share their story. And when I got back, I told Joe Rogan about it. And he said, why don't you come on and talk about it, And went back a second time, buried a kiddo that wrecked me, changed me, said, we got to do more than just talk about him. We got to help him. Joe let me share that story again. He's helped me share it 8 times. And because of Joe Rogan's support, the MMA community support, last year we had over 3,000 donors from all 50 of the United States, from 38 countries. It's been wild to see how much this has grown and how many people we've been able to help tens of thousands of people get clean water for the first time, 100,000 plus students here stateside, I think millions online, at least sharing the story of hope and encouragement. So it's been pretty wild, man. I do probably got to wrap up and get going, but it's wild how it all started from a vision, because here's what I know is, like, if I wouldn't have said yes to Caleb offering me the opportunity to go with him, like, dude, I don't, it's scary to think about where I'd be. You know, would I be back in addiction? Would I have been there permanently? Would I still be alive? Would my heart have stopped? Would I just only be a fighter? Or would I have stopped and only, you know, been not that I don't need to name an occupation, but would I just be doing something that I don't care about, no one else cares about, and that's not helping anybody and not benefiting? You know, would I be living a purposeless life, you know, instead of a purposeful one? So,
Justin, I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I'd love to have you on again to do like the Congo part of this podcast, because we didn't get to delve into it, and you've been so selfless with your time, man. I really feel bad for taking up any more of it.
It's okay.
I'd love to organize it to do this part 2. I'd love to do it.
Yeah. We'll do it again, and we'll also talk about Uganda too, because we've really expanded there, and I'm really pumped about what's going on. Man,
if you're keen, I'm keen. I will organize with your people to do this part 2, man. I can't thank you enough. It was unbelievable. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate your fans, your platform, everyone that follows and tunes into, you know, this. I'm not just encouraging it to share my story, although we would really appreciate that. You know, fightfortheforgotten.org. That's our website. People can become part of our giving club, our monthly giving club. It's our fight club. You know, you mentioned Fight Club, the movie. Ours is Fight Club, and the first rule of Fight Club, you speak about Fight Club.
Yeah.
So you give once a month, or if anyone can give it all, that would be incredible. But really, man, like, sharing this podcast out and letting people know that you exist, that this is an awesome show, that you're an awesome dude. I just encourage your listeners to invite others to listen to the show. You've been doing a great job, so I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. I will get in contact with your people to do this next part. Thank you so much, Justin. Thank you. Take care, man. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.